I was in a dorm room full of older men that pretty much wasn't rap type. And I'm like, why am I here?
My mom and dad, well, who I thought was my mom and dad, they brought me in their room and they told me that I was adopted.
Hello and welcome to Beyond Ordinary. I am your host, Maya Spella Cullins, and I have a guest here by the name of June. He has a story that I know a lot of African American men in particular can relate to. He has had an experience with being in jail, being homeless, and now signing to a major record deal. So he has a story that I know will touch home in many communities. So make sure that you stay connected and you watch this episode. But welcome. Thanks for being here on today, Mr. June.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about your story, June, as it pertains to being in jail, being homeless, and now signing a record deal. So
okay, I grew up in a military background. Well, I had a military background as far as my mother is concerned. Just to skim through everything. I kind of grew up in a 1.5 parent household. Like I had my mother, she was active. Had a stepfather, but
he was in and out.
He wasn't pretty much the good number one candidate.
Right.
So it was mainly my mother and my grandmother.
Do you think that played a part with your experience with being incarcerated and being homeless?
Nah, I would say those are the decisions I made on my own.
Okay.
Because my mother was real hard on me, being that she was in the military. So when I was like a teenager, I rebelled a little bit, and it kind of pushed me into being around like the knuckleheads and stuff. Because I was sheltered by the military, for like a good, my elementary years and up until my teenage years.
Right.
When I was like 15, I started dipping and dabbling with doing the illegal stuff. But the core of that inspiration was I always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
So you never gave up? You never gave up. No. So with you facing the trials and tribulations that you are expressing, being incarcerated and being rebellious and hanging around the wrong people, what would be something that if it's a young man that's out there watching, and I'm saying African American because I know it's a lot that you can probably speak to them, what would be something that you can tell them?
I could tell them attach yourself to a male figure that's positive. I really didn't have that. Luckily, I had the willpower of wanting that. So I kind of veered left to certain things. Like I avoided certain things because I wanted to go down a righteous path with whatever. But cards I pretty much dealt to myself in a sense. I had to figure it out. Like what I was doing wasn't the right way. I didn't really have nobody to tell me at the time, like, June, like you don't need to be doing that.
Right.
Like you need to do this. If you want to go around, if you want to do the righteous thing, you need to do this. But I was going about it the wrong way. But
so what kept you going? Like what kept you inspired? What kept you staying focused even when you went to the left? What got you?
I wanted to be alive. Like I had dreams. Like I always wanted to be. At the time, I wanted to be a baseball player. Before I had love for music. I always wanted to be like Ken Griffey. But when I started getting exposed to music more,
you found a passion. Yeah. That's what you want to do.
I wanted to do music because I was the only child for a period of time. I always was expressive with writing. So I was like, you know what, I like venting, so I wanted to do it through music.
Right. So what message, if you had to give a message to the individuals that's watching, the audience that's watching, what message would you give them through your story that you experienced?
Be consistent and, persistent with what you want. Pray. Prayer works because it's a good form of meditation and affirmation. So if you put it out there, you get what you ask for.
Right.
In different dosage.
Right.
You know, the universe will bring it to you in a small dosages first. And if you're receptive to it, it's going to bring some more to you.
Right.
But if you don't embrace it or do right by it, it'll take it away and then try you in a different
Gotcha.
angle. But stay persistent and pray.
And obviously not to give up.
Yeah.
So we can go back to what led to the homelessness and you being in jail. Tell me a little bit about that. What led you to, was homelessness a choice or?
The homelessness was most definitely, I wouldn't say 100% a choice. Like me, if you know who I am, I'm very stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm very passionate about what I want for myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
whether it's good or bad, or it's just whatever you want. That's what you want.
like if I say I want something, I'm
that's
gonna get
whatever
it done.
it is, right?
Know? So I always, my destiny was to be. I want to be a mogul. Well, I ain't gonna say want to be because I am.
You will be, and you are.
I am.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody was like, join the military. No, I don't want to do that. You know, people was telling me to do this, and the third, and I was like, no, that's not me.
Mm-hmm.
But in all technicality, I was married when I was 21. I had my son at 21, and I was like, look, we can't have kids out of wedlock.
So you got married based off of the norm of what society told you it's supposed to be.
Not just society. I didn't want my mama.
Oh, you wanted to make sure that you didn't disappoint your mama.
I didn't want my mama to come down my throat, bringing some kids, you know, in her house, and I wasn't married.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, look, we gotta get married. We just figured it out. So, you know, about 2.5, 3 years went down. It didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how it goes when marriages don't work out. You know, you lose things, got to start from ground zero.
Right.
So
is that what led to the homelessness?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you think your mother felt then?
I wouldn't know. I would have to assume because I wasn't around her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know she was disappointed because she had high hopes for me. You know, she wanted me to have, you know, the family and all of that, but it didn't work out. But from that point on, I was pretty much back to ground zero. I started picking up music. I started recording demo tapes out of my car. I was on 10th Street, on Peachtree and 10th Street when it was first building. I used to park my car on the top floor, sleep in there, have my laptop. Whenever I had power, I record demos, songs or records, and I used to do open mics. So that pretty much brought me back to music.
And what was your state of mind when you was going through that particular process? Sleeping in your car, you know, walking away where the marriage just didn't work. What was your state of mind during that particular time?
I felt betrayed, you know, because, you know, you put all your your eggs in one basket, and it didn't work out. So I turned all that energy into fuel to keep going.
Do you feel like you could have done something different?
I could have, I was selfish. Like I said, it goes back to me being stubborn in my ways, me being that I had a family, put the music to the side, probably go find a job but that wasn't me. I was like, I told my ex-wife, I can't do that. Like, you know, just hold it down. But that wasn't the right time for that because she was, you know, pregnant and all of that. So, you know, that kind of contributed to us not being together.
Right. Well, you know what? You said some key things. One of the things I heard you say is that you were stubborn, but you had a strong will mind. You had a strong mind. You knew what you wanted. And then I commend you because most men cannot say, I could have done something wrong. I mean, I did something wrong and I could have made it right. That's a big step. So if it was something that you can say to individuals that are watching that take a step to get married or make a choice, whether it's society, whether it's the community, whether it's the church, whether it's a parent, what advice could you give them that you wished you would have took for yourself?
If you need help, don't be ashamed to, you know, receive it or ask for it. Like me, I'll fall completely down before I ask anybody. You know, that's like my last resort. I'm very independent as far as like me trying to get things done. And I don't like asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of, on the good side of that, it made me self-sufficient.
Right.
You know, if you ask a lot of my peers, they describe me as being very, very, self-sufficient and driven. You know, I'm not afraid to take losses or falling down.
And I'm glad you said that. Has there been a time where you felt like you were at your lowest and you didn't know which way to turn at that very moment?
When I was locked up the last time,
Tell me about that.
it wasn't a good experience at all because I was in a dorm room full of older men that pretty much wasn't rap tight. And I'm like, why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm full of talent. My hands are anointed, as people tell me. I have a lot to offer the world. Why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, of course, it's like any person that's been incarcerated, the first thing you go to is catching the jailhouse religion.
Right.
And just recognizing and seeing everything that I took for granted. So, that point, I told myself, hey, look, you got to tighten up. Like, if this is what you want to do, you got to do it the right way.
Right.
You got to leave all the unnecessary stuff alone. I'm not trying to be part of the statistic of the male that's like, fall under or dying young
Right.
out here, especially in Atlanta. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, my brother is in jail for murder.
So I want you to wait right there because we got a lot to talk about. We got to take a break.
Okay.
So we'll be right back. Just make sure you stay connected.
Okay.
Stay locked in. Beyond Ordinary. Maya Spella Collins. For more updates on the show, for more episodes, and to find out more about me, please make sure you log in to beyondordinary.tv. Hello and welcome back. I am your host, Maya Spella Collins, and you are watching Beyond Ordinary. I am here with Mr. June, and he is giving some great information. If you haven't tuned in before, you better make sure you redial or back forward or whatever you got to do to your dial to hear what he just gave us. He gave us some nuggets and some information to show that life is not always perfect, but he still had the willpower and the obedience that he knew within himself that he can make things happen. Before we took a break, you mentioned something, and I had to stop you because I know you can go into a whole round of what that looks like. So go back to where you were telling me about your brother was incarcerated, and then I know we had to take a break. So catch me up from that point.
Yeah, my brother, he's in jail for murder right now. Mm-hmm. Not coming home ever, pretty much. He got life sentence. All of this transpired. Once I got out, once I was released, my cousin and I, we was back at square one.
Mm-hmm.
So we had went to Peachtree Street downtown, and I forgot how I got wind of there was a production company at the time, and they needed some designers. I'm like, man, okay. My cousin, I'm sorry. He was like, try it out. He called on my behalf. Next thing you know it, I'm in this tall building, and I'm in front of Terry Miles or whatnot. So I started interning for them. I told him my situation. So I spent long nights sleeping on desks and stuff like that.
Right.
Just putting in work, building resources and things like that. And then while I was doing that, my brother, he wasn't into that type of stuff, so he was still outside in the streets. So he was still grounded. In the midst of that, he got around some people that we said we was not going to be around no more. And now he's in jail.
He's in jail for life. Yes. And how has that impacted you?
It hurt. It's equivalent to somebody dying. Because me and him, out of anybody, he and I was real tight. We was real close. So that kind of inspired me to keep going.
Right.
But
so you was to keep pushing.
yeah, but I just want to say, give like a hot little shout out, give a little praise to Terry Miles.
Mm-hmm.
He probably don't know, but he saved me because I could have probably been with him. You know, he kind of and also just interning there kind of opened my mind, and it also started a situation for me which changed my life.
Right.
From that point on, I was at a crossroads after doing intern for him. So he was like, Terry was like, look, I can put money in your pocket, or I can just give you game, and you can just pretty much flourish on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So he gave me the idea of starting a magazine.
A magazine?
Yes.
Okay.
It was my first magazine I started. It's called Iodines Magazine.
Okay.
Established 2012,
Mm-hmm.
June 21st. I remember the day and time, when it's happening.
You got a good memory.
Yes. It was late at night. Me and Terry was talking about it. And from that point on, 7 years later, I still got the magazine. That opened doors. I wrote 6 books.
Wow.
Since then. And I've also started 2 other magazines outside of that. And those things pretty much opened doors for me to
do what you're doing now.
To integrate vertically, establish businesses, travel, getting royalties in my sleep.
Right.
And building connections and just putting me in rooms and situations with people I never thought I've ever met.
Wow.
Meet. Me and Terry just crossed paths again. He and I are working on his film he's working on.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be in that. So
yeah, I make sure I tune in.
Yeah,
so how can people reach you? And if it's someone that's looking to possibly do their magazine and they need your assistance and want to, need your services, how can they connect to you?
They can connect to me social media at King June ATL. If you're starting a business, I'm very, very prominent on blacks starting businesses. My contribution to that whole concept is called Creative Orchestra. So I pretty much trying to merge the fields of marketing, the tech world into our community, our culture as a whole. So Creative Orchestra Magazine is something that you all should look up. Go to creativeorchestra.com. That's with a K, not a C. Check me out, and I can assist with anything branding or anything like that. Right now, I'm an established painter. I got paintings in the Trap Museum. And,
so you do paintings too?
Yeah.
Oh, June. I
mean, I have
you got a lot going on.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so it's like I got my hands in a lot of things. So consider myself as June of all trades.
Right.
Not Jack, June.
Gotcha.
I got paintings everywhere. I'm just trying to get established. Like I said, I'm hustling for my last name right now.
Right.
So
I got you. Well, I commend you. Great work. And I know you guys have been inspired because I have through doing this interview with June. But make sure that y'all stay connected. If you want more information, please visit beyondordinary.tv. I am your host, Maya Spella Collins. Make sure you connect with June and you stay by the TV dial. We have another guest coming on, and this you don't want to miss. Hello and welcome. You are watching Beyond Ordinary with your host, Maya Spella Collins. I have Miss Keesha Rivers on today. She's an author. Actually, she wears many of hats. I'm going to allow her to go into all of her accolades and the things that she has accomplished. this is an episode that you have to stay connected and make sure that you tune in, because she has a story, and she also, at the end, you're going to be able to see all the traumas and things that she's been through, but how she overcame it to be who she is today. So welcome, Ms. Rivers. Thanks for being on Beyond Ordinary.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I know that you have a strong, powerful message or a testimony, and the audience is waiting to hear it. So tell me a little bit about what brings you in on today to share your story.
Well, as far back as I can remember, as being 8 years old, my mom and dad, well, who I thought was my mom and dad, they brought me in their room and they told me that I was adopted. So that kind of, bothered anybody that would think that their parents were not their parents.
Right.
So after that, I just started going through trial after trial, from being raped, being molested, being bullied in school. I became a single mom, just not by choice, but it had to happen.
What do you mean by not by choice? You gotta tell me.
Well, I'm not with his daddy.
Okay. It wasn't planned.
It was not planned.
Okay,
It was not
okay,
planned. So
okay.
it was more like I was forced to raise my son, being a day before my 18th birthday.
Okay.
Still graduated high school. Thank God for my father that kept my son for me so I can graduate. But a lot of things. And then from there, different relationships I had been in some were on drugs, some sold drugs.
Right.
Very abusive, verbally and as well as physically. So you pretty much looking at a miracle.
Right.
Yeah.
When you talk about rape, molestation,
Yes.
tell me, like, during that particular time, was you still in the household with your parents? Was it a family member who did it?
Well, it was close. It was close. I will say that. And because I don't want to give out any names to protect, people are still living, and I just don't want to, bring people involved. But they were very close, very close. And I was at home. I was still in the house with my parents as well.
Was it hard for you to be able to talk about it, to let them know that it's, this is happening to me?
Yes, it was. I waited until I was about maybe 31 or 32, and I wrote my mom an entire long email of everything that had happened to me. Everything.
Wow.
She was so distraught. She left work. I will never forget that day. She left work, and I was living about 2 hours away from my hometown then, and she wanted me to come immediately home and talk with her. And I went immediately home, and I told her everything again, and she said, Keesha, the most important thing that really hurted me was you felt like you had to go through that alone. But my mom always worked. She was a nurse for 30 years, very highly respected in the community. My father's a well-known pastor back home. So I felt that I would be in the way, of just their accolades, what they represented with Christ and everything. I just felt being adopted that I was just going to be in the way.
Right.
Just thinking as a child.
Right. So you carry that weight on your own.
Yes.
And how did it impact you? Because you talked about the relationships that you got in after, or actually before the age of 18. So how do you feel that played a factor because you carried it on your own instead of speaking?
It played a big factor because if you looked at me, you wouldn't be able to tell. But it carried an extremely big factor because of the choices that I made. I felt like I didn't really have any guidance by my choice. But I made decisions on my own. But I was a child, so I made child decisions because my self-esteem was low.
Right.
I just wanted to be loved, But unfortunately, love didn't find me right then.
Right. What advice could you give to young women that have a similar story, and they're searching for love but in all the wrong places?
Well, the advice I would give to young women, just know who you are, know your worth, and do not let anybody dictate that. Regardless if someone is home, your mom may be at work, your dad may have to work, because people have to work. They have goals, they have dreams, but people do have to work. But the advice that I would give young ladies, as well as men, because men are being abused as well, know your worth, look in the mirror every day and tell your own self you're beautiful. But you have to really remember that you are beautiful, and that's what I would share with them today.
Right. Well, I know you have so many different things, even though you have a testimony that is out this world, because people say, how is she still standing?
Yes.
You have accomplished so much as well. Before I go there, have there ever been a time that you felt like giving up?
There's been plenty of times.
Tell me about one.
Okay. Just one? When I found out I was pregnant with my son, I just felt like the lowest of the low. not because of him, but because I had allowed myself to be in school this far. And then it's my senior year. I'm having my son. I'm getting ready to be a mother 2 months before I graduate. And I was planning on going to FAMU to become the first female drum major. So when I found that out, I just felt like I just didn't want to live anymore.
Wow. So what saved you?
He did.
He is in who?
My son.
Your son.
My son saved me. When I had him, my whole world changed. My whole life changed. When I looked at him, I just knew I had to finish. I knew I had to keep going. So it was him that saved me.
Okay, so if someone, actually, I know you have books and you have one here.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your books and what you are doing now.
Well, the name of my first book, best-selling book on Amazon.
Yes.
Yes, I know. A good accomplishment.
Yes.
Mama, They Didn't Mean It. That's the name of it. And I actually dedicated that book to my biological mother because she always wondered, did things happen to me inside the home? But I'm a woman of Christ. And it goes back to when Jesus was on the cross. He said, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do.
Yes.
So a lot of things happened to me in the book. I talk about from age 8, from being raped, molested, bullied in high school, my single parenting. But it goes back to they didn't know what they were doing. People are taught certain ways. People adapt to certain things that they replicate. So I named it after that scripture, after being a woman of God, and I dedicated it to my mom.
Did you ever go back to get closure?
I did go back to get closure. I did in more ways than one, but at the beginning it didn't happen that way. No.
Not at the beginning, but now you have that closure.
Yes.
And this is, how many books have you written?
This is my first. I'm in the
Okay.
process of writing my second book. It talks more about the relationships that I were involved in, far as sexual, far as co-workers, family relationships, different things like that. And then a third book I'm working on. It'll be done probably springtime.
Okay.
That's going to be a collaboration of 10 authors as well as myself, talking about our different expertise in the business field that we are in.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. If someone wanted to reach out to you and connect with you, how can they?
If the audience wants to connect with me, you can connect with me on all social media sites with my name, Keesha Rivers, KeeshaRivers.
And if it was something that you can leave the audience and give them some inspirational words, what would those words be?
Inspirational words I would leave would be to just remember that life is what you made it. My mom always told me that since I was 16 years old. Life is what you make it. Regardless of whatever situation you've been in, what you've gone through, you can take those situations and change those situations to work out for your good.
As you can see, you have seen some dynamic interviews on today with two phenomenal guests that gave their side of the story. You've seen the struggles of life. You see that no matter what cards was dealt to them, they was able to maneuver and still come out on top, and you can too. So make sure that you stay connected. Make sure that you stay blessed. Go tell a friend, go love on a friend, and always know that Beyond Ordinary TV is how you can find us. I am your host, Maya Spella Cullins, and thanks for tuning in to Beyond Ordinary. You do matter to us.